Hi there, Cameron Crowe and Wookie here to tell you about our public transportation survey with Make Boise Better this week. You gonna say hi, Wookie? Wookie? Good boy. All right. So this is the second time I've done this, but if you've seen the first one, the drill is I walk through screen sharing kind of the different resources here. So this is the Make Boise Better homepage. I'm going to start every video off with saying what we're about and why you should care, and not only just care, but you should get involved. So Make Boise Better is trying to put facts to important local issues and discussions that are happening on a timely basis where no data exists already. So there's a lot of things where there's big scientific, expensive surveys out there. We're not trying to compete with that. We're trying, with the help of all of you and our subscribers that take our weekly surveys, to be able to say numerically, quantitatively, this is what the biggest group of people that's weighing in on these issues is saying about this. And what we want to be able to do is show when that's different than maybe the prevailing narratives that we are aware of in the news today. Anyway, that's what we're about. This is the easiest way to be a part of the solution in Boise. You can do it with 3 minutes every week. That's all it takes to take our surveys. There's other ways to get involved too, but that's the best way where you can be a part of the solution. If you want to join us, click on this, do your part, and you'll get to our simple sign-up form for our mailing list, and you get the surveys emailed to you. Okay. So here's our transportation analysis piece. And I'm not going to go over this. This is at the beginning of every analysis piece. It says that if we don't have 50 responses, we won't do segmentation, which means take the answers to one question and slice it by the answers of the other questions, kind of a multi-dimensional thing to show patterns underneath the surface. So we're talking about public transit. The reason we're talking about that is because it's a really hot topic in Boise right now. The city's spending a ton of time thinking about and engaging the community on growth topics. They did a workshop, and the results of these workshops series have been housing's big, transportation's big, kind of environmental and cultural preservation, keeping Boise is big, and the last one is governance. So last week we did affordable housing. This week we did transportation and public transit, and next week we're going to do governance. So we're kind of, the city's highlighted this stuff, so we're going to take inspiration from that and do the best we can to help out. Okay, so public transit, that's the context why we did this. And there's a link here to our survey results and group discussion recording. I'm going to touch on what's there really quick. So there's a link to the actual survey. You can see what the questions were and how it was worded and exactly what the survey looked like. You can see the results, and those are automatic. Let's go to the top here. Those show the exact answers to the survey questions, not the individual responses, so that you might be able to pick out who's who theoretically. The overall responses, you can see all of those, and you can see the comments, open field comments, which are super interesting. We're going to get to that too. Okay, and then this is new as of this week. We did a live group discussion. So we posted that on Eventbrite, and you could have found it from this link. Oh, the event's gone now. Here's what it looked like. So we're going to do this every week, by the way. So if you didn't get a chance to participate this week, look out for next week. You could have seen this from this page on our Make Boise Better, or you might have seen it after taking one of our surveys, or you might have seen it from our Facebook discussion group. Anyway, we had there were 4 of us that showed up for this thing, and we talked through the results and kind of discussed what it meant and what's missing and what can we do to make transit better. And here's the fun Bitmoji for that post. Okay, so back to this. So what I did, since we didn't have 50 responses, we had 49, so close. I'm not doing any segmentation. But what I am doing is taking the charts that I find the most interesting and saying kind of what I'm reading into that. So basically the people that took our survey are short distance drivers. So that's the biggest group, is driving is their primary mode of transportation. Got a few bikers, and their commutes are pretty short. We spent some time talking about that in our group discussion. There's a link to that part of the discussion right here. But basically these are given these answers, and there's a lot of others. Those are people that are retired or work from home, for the most part. These aren't the people that are driving into Boise from Meridian or Nampa or Caldwell, because those commute times are too short. These are typically the people that are living in Boise and commuting to somewhere else in Boise, but they have a lot of gripes with our public transit. They're not necessarily the people that are the primary use case for it per se, but they're feeling the effects of not having good transportation. For example, they're unimpressed with the quality of Boise's public transportation options. Most said fair or poor, but they're wannabes. If it was better, they would want to use it regularly. So pretty big group said they would use it every day if they felt like they had the ideal options. But the biggest group was a few times a week. So every few days, let's just call it that. So the reason I asked this is I want to know, are people just, wanting to kind of gripe about our public transportation options without them actually being somebody that would really use it? Turns out most people would use it or would want to use it regularly. That was good to know. Good context. Yeah. So this next two questions kind of get at, so what should we do? How do we make it better? We asked people to talk about what is the best solution opportunity to improve public transport. And we asked buses more places, buses more often, a circulator in Boise, like downtown, or a train connecting the Treasure Valley, or other. We got a fair amount of others, but the two biggest votes were a train connecting the Treasure Valley and buses more often. So we thought that was interesting. We touched on how, given that our respondents typically have short commutes, but then they voted for a train, at first glance that might seem weird, but I'm going to show you how we talked about that together in our group. Yeah, because people don't need a train if their commute's less than 10 minutes. Right. They want the other people to take the train. Right. Yeah. So that's basically the other people that would take the train from the outside of the Treasure Valley. They're clogging up the streets that these Boiseans that are moving within Boise are dealing with. So that was kind of interesting distinction, or part of our discussion. And then here's our sponsored question for the week from Valley Regional Transit, the people that manage all of this. Under what conditions would we prioritize transit over cars? So when would you kind of give them preferential treatment, like a dedicated lane, or the bus gets to go through the intersection first, or things like that? And we were pretty surprised, the group of us, that people are pretty supportive of this concept. From the news, I generally gather that people are like, no, whatever is getting in the way of my car going somewhere I'm not a fan of. But at least with this group of respondents, they said, yeah, always prefer give transit priority. But a lot of people said also when the traffic's heavy or when buses are full, which was kind of signaling I'm willing to make some sacrifices to make transit a better experience and work better and be more used. So kind of begs a question, are these people different than everybody else in Boise? Is everybody in Boise actually no, give me all the lanes I can have for my car, or there are actually more people that are like, yeah, we need better transit and let's do what it takes. We talked about that a little bit right here. But I think the counter argument, if I'll channel some other points of view, that means that there's going to be less road for me to drive on, which means unless I'm taking the bus, and maybe it doesn't always make sense for me to take the bus, it's going to take me longer to get where I want to go.
Not necessarily, because those people that are in the buses in that lane are removing those cars. So the lane you're in may not be as busy, possibly.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with that, yeah. You're packing people more closely when they're together.
More density.
8 vehicles, there are 8 people on a bus. Hopefully more than 8, but we'll start with something and work from there.
So, okay, our group says, yeah, we can give up some space for transit. That doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to get more traffic because there'd be less cars. Okay, interesting. Now, okay, we have identified some possible solutions to make transit better, but like, okay, will people vote? Will people put the pressure on to make this happen? A lot of people said it's a top priority, but it's not the most important priority. So I would summarize that as, yes, people will vote, but it's not going to be the top thing. So I think that people will respond to this in kind of campaigns, though this might not be enough to kind of decide it for you. If you pick one thing in your platform, this might not do it. But we know that we need more money to make these solutions work, and we talked about that too.
More education about where the system, the transit system that we have right now, where that funding is coming from, because I don't think there's an awareness right now how that gets funded, the lack of funding that we actually have for it. By state law, we're not allowed to take money.
And then Jared went into a lot of details about funding for the system. He's way more knowledgeable about that than I am. Okay. That's all for the charts. Me just saying, I said I didn't do segmentation because we didn't have enough responses. But if I were going to have done segmentation, I like to mention kind of the things that I would have liked to split it by. And these aren't just like wishful things. These are things that I've collected previously, so I actually can segment it by. For instance, politics. Are liberals more supportive of transit than conservatives, like I would expect? We got that information in this culture survey results. Income. Do wealthier people not really care about public transit because cost isn't a big factor for them? Collect that in the economy survey results, so we could do that too. And then the environment. Are people that care a lot about environmental impact more supportive of transit? I would guess so. We did an environment survey where we could slice that too. So that's what I would have done. And now for comments. I'm not going to probably go through all of these word for word, but these were really interesting comments. And instead of writing up my reaction to all of them, I've emojified those for conciseness. So things that people say too much attention is paid to them. The downtown trolley car, or / whatever Mayor Beater wants. This is a spicy comment. That they should be able to drive a private car without any delays at any other hour of the day. This is unrealistic emoji face. Let's skip down to these are all great. And basically people saying that we need to make some tough decisions. We need to make some sacrifices and investments to get this. And this is the one that I thought maybe sums it up for me is, what do people not pay enough attention to? This person just said public transportation. I hear it mentioned a lot, but nothing is happening, so we must not be paying enough attention to it yet. whether stuff is happening or not, that's how he feels, and I think that's how a lot of us feel. So either improving kind of the community engagement and communication so that we know what's going on, or finding a way to make this a bigger deal. I don't know, how do we push the issue so we can get some movement on this? Anyways, that's all, folks. Here's my interesting Bitmoji. And then the last thing I always want to say, if you looked at these results and are like, that's crazy, no, people don't think that. Okay, those weirdos that Make Boise Better surveyed think that, sure, that's clear from the results, but that's not what the rest of the Boiseans think. That's not what I think. If you ever feel like that, you could be right. Maybe we aren't reaching enough people, getting enough different views, enough number of people and enough variety of people to respond. Please do us all a solid and help us understand what you think and what the people like you think. So please join us and take our surveys so that we can get a better picture of what, more Boiseans think. We're already doing something really cool by putting data in the public discussion that doesn't exist already, but we can only get better from here. So please join us and help us get there. Anyways, that's it. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for our next stuff.